So, what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution is as confused as we are. After all, the victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time. Oh, this is Lana. The victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time, and a different suspect was arrested at each of the crime scenes. Lana! Good morning, Mr. Wright. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. I hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So, how'd it go? It's as Mr. Wright suspects. The police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, they wouldn't seek capital punishment. That's what I mean, Emma. But Lana! Don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. Miss Skye. We found trace evidence of a certain person in the police department's evidence room. They belong to Officer Jake Marshall. What kind of trace evidence? Blood-stained fingerprints, to be exact. Ugh. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? We have to play the cards we're dealt with. Isn't that right, Miss Skye? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is... I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time. But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just disappeared. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Wow, this is one messed up trial. One of my duties as prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today, I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In so doing, I believe the way in which we should proceed will reveal itself. Now that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart! He sounds so on top of things! Even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admirable trait? Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the day to the stand. For its first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of the murder that occurred at the police department. The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer? Oh boy. Things are getting wild from the get-go. Will the witness please state his name and occupation? Yes, sir! I'm Officer Mike Meekins, sir! My occupation is, that would be murderer, sir! So you're telling us you're a professional killer? Sir, it was me, sir! I'm the one who did it! I'll never kill anyone again, sir! You gotta believe me, sir! Actually, what we'd like to... Sir! I'm what you would call part of the younger generation, sir! A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend! Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir, help me, please! Officer Meekins! Yes, sir! Give us your report of the crime. Consider that in order. Yes, sir! As you wish! After all, I am part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir! You can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. Although it's not my normal duty, I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day. I spotted a suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life, and then I did it. After that, I passed out until another officer smacked me awake. So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you? Do unto others before they do unto you! That's what Meekins' family motto, sir! I see. Then you fainted and a colleague helped you regain consciousness. Yes, sir! He knocked me upside the head, sir! Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. What I need here is more info to work with. Okay, so now we get the cross-examination. Well, I definitely know this is gonna be a while, if the first day was anything to go by. And the fact that it was also, if I go into options, it says trial former, and the second part was trial latter, though it doesn't, I seem to have overwritten it. So, what I'm going to do, in order to prevent any other sort of mishaps from happening like before, is I'm gonna override this save. And I'll keep going through as normal, but at the start of each brand new, testimony, don't know why I blanked there, at the start of a new testimony, I'll create a new save. And then I'll just kind of go in between. If I get to a point where I'm 2 strikes away from losing, I'll cease saving. That way, like, I'll at least be able to have something to work with, regardless of what may happen. I don't like save scumming. I don't want to save after literally every single thing I get right. I don't think that's fun. I think it'll be quite annoying. So that's how I'll do this, so that way I can at the very least keep things going without needing to redo a whole lot should I fail. Alright, so let's go ahead and start pressing Meekins. Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not? Yes, sir! I am in charge of hiring new recruits, sir! Yikes, now there's a scary thought. Evidence transferal was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed. I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir! The Blue Badger? Yes, sir! The lovely police mascot created by the Chief of Detectives, sir! I was to ensure it wasn't broken during the transferal process! That was my sole mission for the day, sir! I see. Sounds like a very important mission. After the award ceremony finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room. Tell us, what did you see when you got there? Interesting. So, the only reason he was there at the evidence room was because of the Blue Badger, which is the first time that's been of any importance on this case. Well, let's keep pressing. In order to enter the evidence room, you need an ID card. Am I correct? Precisely, sir! I have one right here around my neck! So then, your ID number should be listed on here, right? There it is! I found it! This is the one right here! Could you please read us the number? Yes, sir! It's 4989596! That's my number, sir! I see. Huh? But the number 4989596... it's shown as being used twice. Please explain, witness. It's no real mystery, sir. The first time was when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. And the second time is when I went to go get him after everything settled down. I see. So it was during that second time when... Yes, sir! That was when I spotted the man on the security screen! Interesting. Okay, so the person who entered twice was Meekins. Okay. So, checking in on everything. The ID record. Okay, so we still have no idea who all the 7s are. But Edgeworth came in 20 minutes after them. Meekins came in 10 minutes after Edgeworth to put the Blue Badger there. And then 5:14 was when Goodman and Meekins were in the evidence room. And according to this, there was no one else who was in the evidence room at the time. Okay. Unless the person in all 7s never left. Which, who knows? That might be what happened. Okay, so I was only doing what I was trained, and I was suddenly attacked. So you were attacked. Could you please tell us exactly what happened to you? It was a knife, sir! A knife! Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you? What happened then? Well, with me charging in on him like that, he looked as surprised as I was. You aren't exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into. That's when I reacted, sir! I swept my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him! That's how I got this gash on my hand! Maybe if you just kept your cool, your hand wouldn't be... When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the man by his collar. Okay, I fought for my life, and then I did it. What exactly do you mean when you say you did it? I know I don't look like the type, but I'm really into kung fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him. You took his knife? I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. I made sure to close my eyes like a man. I see. He must have been desperate. The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of my blood. And then the next thing I knew... Yes? He punched me right in my face, sir! After that, I passed down to another... So he was punched in the face, and then he was knocked out from the punch, then. About what time did you regain consciousness? No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious! Oh, right. According to the report from the officer that woke up the witness, it was about 5:30. He hit me right in the head, too. I woke up crying tears of pain! That's nice. I mean, it's nice that you recovered, that is. When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir. Your mission? Yes, sir, the Blue Badger, sir! Our terms of the interest before things got out of hand! Well, we can all rest easy now. I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened. Yes, Your Honor. Only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point. Yes, Officer Meekins. With regard to that, sir, take a look at this. It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning, sir. The chief delivered it? What is that? A videotape? Why is it a VHS? 2003. This game was made in 2003. Remember that. Remember that. Yes, sir! That's absolutely right, sir! A videotape, sir! It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room! What? But I specifically asked if there was such a tape, and was told it had been mistakenly erased. That's quite a mistake. I just do what I'm told, sir. It's the only thing I'm really good at. Looks like communication with the police department is as good as ever. Well then, let's have a look. Show us the video of you murdering the victim. Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me. A video of a real murder. Just what are we getting ourselves into? Well, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us? What the hell was that wiggling piece of plywood? Sir, that is the pride and joy of the entire criminal affairs department, sir! It's the Blue Badger, sir! Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly? Okay. So, yeah, to no one's surprise, the face of whoever Goodman, in giant hair quotes, was hidden the whole time. Yes, well, anyway. This tape seems to prove that the witness did indeed encounter someone in the evidence room. And some sort of activity did take place. Your Honor! Instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that all right with you, Officer Meekins? Yes, sir! As you wish, sir! Okay, wow, okay, so brand new testimony. So I didn't have to do anything. Except just press him on everything. Cool. His face can't be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman, sir. I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it. What's this about a fingerprint? Each detective excuse me, let me try that again. Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to. Intriguing. That would mean the victim at the crime scene would have had to have been Detective Goodman. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination. I don't know where this cross-examination will lead, but everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. Okay, I don't feel the need to do my save trick that I mentioned before, since all it was pressing. Can I look at the video again? There was something that was bothering me. Okay, for one, the light is already on. I noticed that immediately, and that just completely caught my attention. Oh, and the cloth in that one wasn't there. Okay, it's there. Piece of paper falls out, which probably what was keeping the locker open. Yeah, because where I think that was Marshall's fingerprint was found, that cloth isn't there. So Meekins gets attacked. Blue Badger's still there. And next thing you see, Meekins is unconscious. The perp is nowhere to be found. And suddenly, there's a cloth there. Wait, did it just loop? Yeah, it just looped. Okay. So yeah, those are two very interesting key points. The light was already on, which tells me that the locker was already open, so they didn't need Goodman's fingerprint. And that cloth didn't show up until after the struggle was over. That is very interesting. Well, let's press him on everything first and see if we can't try to get some info. Tell me, were you able to get a good look at him? At the face of the man who attacked you with a knife? Sir, if you must label people as having seen or not seen the man's face, I believe I would be classified as the latter? The latter? But you were standing right in front of him, were you not? More to the point, you were the person who fought him, weren't you? Oh, yes, sir, but I didn't get a clear look at his face, sir. I'm not the kind of guy who looks directly at people when talking with them, you see. Yeah, that's a good trait for a police officer. Still, I'm sure it was him! I bet my badge on it! I don't think so. There's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman. But you don't know that for sure, do you? You never actually saw Detective Goodman's face. Well, I suppose you might say that. That is, if you must label people as having seen or not seen it. Since his face can't be identified in the video, only you can verify it. Why is everyone looking at me? If I had to label your stares as disturbing, or... Meekins! Ah! Having been shown a questionable video at best, we are not in the best of moods. Now please, be more certain when you testify. Yes, sir. You claim the man who brandished a knife on you was Bruce Goodman. Tell us why you are positive it was him. He opened the locker which required Goodman's fingerprint. This is what I think is the contradiction. Because the light was on, which meant that the locker was already opened. About these lockers, is there no other way to open them? No, sir! I myself tried all kinds of methods in the past! They only respond to registered fingerprints, sir! I wonder what kind of methods he's tried. If the man opened the locker's lock, which only responds to its registered fingerprints, then he must be the person the locker was assigned to. Exactly my point, sir! And this too! The locker you open is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker. That I don't question. Which is why I'm gonna press it anyway. How do you know that information? I've heard rumors, sir! From people in the know, sir! People in the know? The workers in the apartment cafeteria, sir! They keep me informed. They also listen to my romantic troubles, sir. For the record, the opened locker did indeed belong to Detective Goodman. I verified this information through a more reliable source. So the victim opened the locker with his own fingerprint. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it. However, the most important detail is not shown in this video. The man's face! Sir! If I may say something, sir? Please do. After all, you are the one being examined. I don't understand why the man's face is so important in this case, sir. I mean, it was his hand that opened the fingerprint lock. And it was his hand that tried to thrust his knife into my body, sir! My unsettled state can testify enough to this, sir! Yes, you have a point. The footage doesn't lie. That is, unless the defense can find a problem with it. Mr. Wright, let's check the court record again. Is there a problem with the security video? Yes! There is. Okay, so it wasn't exactly presenting it, so I was right to just keep pressing. There is a problem. The light in Goodman's locker was on, which meant it was unlocked. Regarding the video contained on this tape, there's one thing in particular that seems rather strange. Strange? This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman. What? This video contains such a contradiction. Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal. Yes, Mr. Edgeworth? I propose we have the defense point out to us this alleged contradiction in the video. You want me to point it out? Very well, proposal accepted. Let's further inspect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Mr. Wright, please show us this contradiction you speak of. I have to point out a problem in the video? This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You can do it, Mr. Wright! It's set up so you can fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing. Please don't play it too many times! I can't stand watching this video! How did this guy ever become a police officer? Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man may not be Detective Goodman? Okay. So, fast forward, pause. It's the light. The light here indicates that the locker is already opened. That is right? Indicator lamp lights up when it's open. Which means you don't need a fingerprint if it's already opened. And it's already open before anyone is there. The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this! Officer Meekins! Sir! Do you mean me, sir? As I understand it, the locker apparatus works like this. When you grab the handle, a sensor reads your fingerprint. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released. According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir! If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker, let's rewind to a little earlier. Here! Notice the light? What's this? It's already lit! Precisely my point, Your Honor. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle! Ah! Order! Order! What's the meaning of this? It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When the door is shut, a sensor is triggered. And the locker is automatically locked. Oh, I know. It must have broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this. That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction. Oh, well, it just goes to show novices should keep their mouths shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation? Me, Your Honor? Yes. Why wasn't the locker locked? Me, Your Honor? Yes, well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator? Huh? Oh, maybe something like jammed the system sensor? Something jammed the sensor? Say, there's something else that seems out of place in this video. Yeah, I thought so too! There's got to be another clue somewhere in this footage. Very well, let's inspect the video once more. The locker wasn't locked. Mr. Wright, please point out the cause for this. Okay, so blah 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 blah. I already know what to do. Mr. Fake Goodman shows up. Pause. This is what caused it to jam. Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. What's this? Something white fell out of the locker. But sir, it's been my experience that things fall out when the doors are opened. I often fall out and roll great distances when I open my car door, sir. We can't be sure that the item was completely inside the locker to begin with. What do you mean? The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted? Say, between the sensor and the door. Inserted? This white thing wasn't inside the locker. It was stuck between the door and the sensor. Oh, I understand now, sir! It's just like my tie! 2 out of 3 times it gets stuck in the door when I get out of my patrol vehicle, sir! Instead of the door closing, my tie chokes me, but the object would have to be extremely thin to fit the door. Not only that, it would also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator. Yes, an insulator! But at the crime scene, there just might have been something that fits the description. But, sir, by insulator, you don't mean... I think I finally got this figured out. Very well. Will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was this insulator that was stuck in the locker door? Was it the glove? Extremely thin rubber glove. Yeah. I actually wasn't thinking too much about this, actually. But it would make sense. If it's extremely thin and it's made out of rubber, rubber would, rubber is an excellent insulator. SL9, blah, 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 blah. Okay, blah, 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 blah. No, it's gotta be the glove. It was at the crime scene. And I don't recall there really being anything else. And it says extremely thin rubber glove. This has to fit that. I found this near the locker. A thin rubber glove. But we can't be sure that was in the victim's locker. It has a tag that says SL9 incident. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker, but that isn't the case. The lit lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is this not so, Officer Meekins? Sir! It would appear so, sir! Order! 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 So, are we to believe then that the victim, whom this witness stabbed in the evidence room, was not Detective Goodman? Do not be misled, Your Honor. What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? The defense has merely demonstrated that possibility and nothing more. The victim in the video was indeed Bruce Goodman. The prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins, please testify about this. Sir! Me, sir? I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir. Is this a joke? Very well, begin your testimony. Mystery Man, Part 2. There's one other thing that proves the man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used his card. An ID card record. I see. I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. The ID used at 5:14 is that of the victim. Just before the crime, Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for transferal. Why were there so few people using this room? This particular evidence room is only used for storing certain special cases. Special cases? Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although it doesn't make much of a difference. There were only a few cases up for transferal there, and most were cleared up by noon. Right, I see. Now let's move on to the cross-examination. I guess that was actually a really good point. Okay, so cross-examination. Alright, it's at this point that I am going to save.